Carlin.
Aaron.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on us.
Are you underwater?
Not underwater. I'm sorry. I'm chewing gum again. Let me spit my gum out.
Is it extra?
You know
extra
it is.
gum?
You know it is. Hold on.
It better not be extra because we talked about this.
What did we talk about?
In episode 001,
Yes.
I had asked you what gum it was.
Yeah.
And you said it was extra.
Yeah, I said that.
And you were you said you had hoped it would have been Peppy gum.
Right.
So are you chewing Peppy gum?
Yes.
How is it?
I spit it out. Now it's
Oh,
now it's gone.
okay. Okay. Good. Good.
I got the you got the
Oh. Hang on.
I got the peppy coffee going. You know what? Let me just pull back the James Pod curtains for everyone here.
Please.
And I say this because I know that these episodes, because of who we are, us being James Bond experts.
Who are we?
We are the Pod James Pod podcast. My name is Carlin Trammell, and your name is Aaron Nix. We are James Bond experts. I feel as though many look to us as the ultimate source of all things James Bond. And because of that, we are placed on a high pedestal. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with this, being the ultimate James Bond knowledgeable experts. And I know that these episodes are going to be looked back on for years and years to come. So this is really an as of the time of this recording statement. Mm-hmm. Because I know that people 10, 20 years from now are going to hear this, and it's going to be a different time. It's going to be the era that you live in, people who live in the future, people who are watching this in movies made by high school students.
Future people.
High school
students, yes.
However you consume this media, know that we, Aaron and myself, here in this time as we record it, this is the day of release of Spectre, Daniel Craig's fourth, and as of this time, we don't know if it's his final or if it's fourth of 7 or 20. We have no idea right now because we're confined by time. We don't see the future.
It is November 6th, 2015. You saw this movie today. I saw it last night.
Somehow you saw it before it came out. That baffles me, but whatever.
Movie theaters these days. Who knows? In the future, maybe there won't be any release date.
Perhaps.
There won't be theaters.
Right. But we're not talking to. I mean, we're addressing. We know we have people in the future listening to this, but we at the same time we're restrained. We're confined by who we are and when we live in, and so we're living in this time. We have made not a commitment, but we've really done a good job at releasing these shows on the 007th, and that's tomorrow. And so we're trying to get this thing done and uploaded for you, the listeners, the 6 of you, so that you can enjoy our insights on James Bond, Daniel Craig's fourth and possibly final, or his 20th or fourth of 20 movies, or whatever it is. You can hear that. You can hear our insights, and you can know what you should think about this movie.
We're being judged right now by future people.
We are, and I always feel that way.
I don't feel like it's fair. We're down one co-host already. If you listen to our previous episode with Skyfall, you know that our third co-host, Alabama Dog, has since gone. He's gone AWOL, and Carl, people know that we talk once a month when we do these episodes, unless I need financial advice. But I haven't heard from Bama Dog. I wrote him a letter. I sent a message out to him asking if he wanted to see the movie with me, and he didn't show up. And all I've seen from him is our inspirational quotes on his Twitter feed. So it's very I don't really know. Anyway,
well, let me ask you about that though. When you read those quotes, you say they're inspirational, but do they really inspire you? Because I read them and I don't really feel all that inspired.
I imagine that they're inspirational to Bama Dog, and in some weird, cryptic way. But yeah, it's weird. It's like faux inspirational. It's like he just Googles inspirational quotes and goes on inspirationalquotes.com and just goes down the list. Like, what's your daily inspirational quote? He gets an alert in his phone every morning,
right?
Because of course he would have a cell phone, and he would just then copy and paste it onto his Twitter feed. I don't know, but it's a little weird. And so anyway, Bama Dog, we've moved on.
Well,
to our.
I've heard a rumor. I've heard a rumor actually, and I can't confirm this, but I think I know where he might be.
Is he in Tallahassee?
He's not in Tallahassee. I think that this must be like from the time he was spending with you in the Nebraska office and all the Peppy coffee that you had, because my understanding.
Oh, there was a lot of Peppy coffee being drunk.
Here's my guess: is you guys had so much of it that he kind of went off the deep end, because really you shouldn't be drinking that much. I mean,
you think that's why he left?
Well, possibly. Really, you don't need but just a little bit to really get
just a drop.
You need just a drop
for 24 hours.
And I think he was so inspired by the Peppy coffee, he needed more. And I feel as though I read somewhere, I heard through the grapevine, because I'm always going to these different events, James Bond party events and things like that.
Yeah, like tonight you went.
Like tonight, because that's who I am. I'm a guy who goes and I socialize.
Expert level status, right there.
I have to make these appearances because that's who I am. I have to go and I have to share who I am with other people. And I've heard through the grapevine that he's landed at Peppy as sort of their mascot, or that he's working in their marketing department. And
so you're saying that you've heard that he is such a caffeine addict.
Well, not just caffeine, but Peppy caffeine.
Okay, more specifically, a Peppy addict. Oh, I need a little. That sounded like a pretty big sip. Maybe a little too much.
It's late, man. We got to get this show done.
All right. So, well, that is something that we will have to explore and try to uncover. Because if he's working at Peppy and he's not involving us, I feel like that's the ultimate shun. That's the ultimate shun, and that would be heartbreaking.
It would be. Maybe I should reach out to him because it doesn't seem like you guys left on really that great of terms. I don't know what exactly happened. Like, I don't
know how you got that impression. Of course, we didn't leave on good terms. I was crying. Last episode.
I know, but I don't know. Like, maybe I should reach out to him. So I'll make it a point.
Yeah.
I'll make it a point to reach out to Alabama Dog and see if maybe
pet his ears behind his ears.
Yeah, just
reach out,
just rub his belly. Come here, Alabama Dog. Come here. Yeah, good scratching on your belly.
Good boy.
And see if maybe I can just find out what's going on. Because if he can give me a hookup to some Peppy, then that's what.
Well, I know he at this point he's not going to hook me up with any Peppy or Peppy merchandise or swag or anything like that.
Right, he's not.
Yeah, if you would want to do that I would appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see what we can find out. Let's just see.
Okay. So this episode we are talking about Spectre, obviously, and I got to start with this. I'm upset. I'm upset.
Well, I know what you're going to say.
Well,
I wrote a letter to Sam Mendes, and apparently he didn't
listen to any of our requests.
No.
He didn't put gold in the title. There was no character named Lisa Prentice.
Nope.
There was no boat makeout.
Yeah, I mean, one point he got in a boat with the Bond girl, and I was like, "Oh, here we go, this is it." But no boat makeout.
I guess I should back up. I want to give a spoiler alert to our listeners. I think it's fair at this point that we've seen Spectres the day after it came out, and if you're listening to this episode and you have not seen Spectre, it's probably not a good idea. To listen from here on.
Oh, that's absolutely not true. You should go ahead and listen, because this way you'll know what you should think about the movie when you watch it. But yeah, whatever. Just know that there will be spoilers.
There will. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I take that back.
Don't not listen.
However you like to watch movies, some people like to spoil it because they like to be informed by listening to experts like us. You're right.
Yeah.
But yes, there are spoilers. Okay. So there's no boat makeout scene. What else did we talk about? We talked about we demanded that he
I wrote that letter a long time ago. I don't even really remember.
I have it right in front of me.
Did I send that to you instead of Sam? Is that what happened?
What's that?
Did I send it to you instead of Sam? Is that why it didn't happen?
No, it's on our blog. If you go to podjamespod.tumblr.com, you can look at our letter to the Sam Mendes. So obviously Sam Mendes didn't adhere to our requests, demands. They want to be demands, but suggestions.
Well,
suggestions.
I'm disappointed because of a couple of reasons. That things that didn't happen in the letter, but overall, I will say that I'm okay. I'm okay that those things didn't happen because I'm still satisfied with a lot of what we got. So I'm okay. You chose not to include a character named Lisa Prentice. You couldn't work her in because
But can you imagine if he had?
Yeah. But I mean, what would we possibly have lost if that had happened? So I mean, I'm gonna let it slide and trust Sam Mendes's judgment.
Okay, so it sounds like you were pretty trusting after seeing this movie that you walked away, knowing that it was in good hands, that you came out satisfied, is what you're saying.
Well, I don't want to skip to that part of the show, but I mean, yeah.
Fine. Okay. All right. So I guess what part do you want to skip to?
Well, okay, so we talked about Skyfall a lot last time, and we have covered all of the other Daniel Craig movies, and I think let's just start there. This is his fourth film. This is very much a movie that pulls together a bunch of threads, connects a whole bunch of dots, and essentially winds up being a part 4 of a 4-part saga you didn't know was happening. And I know we have differing thoughts on this because going back even to Quantum of Solace in our major discussions there, and I liked the fact that Quantum of Solace was a sequel movie. Spectre is very much a sequel film as well, and it's not just a sequel to Skyfall. It picks up on a lot of things that happen in Casino Royale. It references things that happen in Casino Royale. Not as much Quantum, but I mean certainly Quantum's a part of it, and certainly Skyfall. So this is a sequel movie. I think it still stands on its own. I think if someone went in and this is the first Bond movie they saw, they would still be fine. But this is a sequel film, and I know we have differing opinions on this. So I wonder what you thought about that aspect.
How do you know we have differing opinions?
What we did on Quantum of Solace. So I'm done.
Oh, well, Quantum of Solace, yes,
yeah,
of course.
So I wonder how you feel now.
Quantum of Solace was a direct sequel where it literally took the end of Casino Royale and just continued it straight from the next scene. Whereas Spectre isn't. I mean, technically, it transformed all of Daniel Craig's movies into one catalog, one collection of movies, one saga, and it retconned the whole idea of quantum and Silva being part of the Spectre
I would
organization.
say the Silva thing is the biggest retcon. Quantum,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
okay
yeah.
with. Like, Quantum was an evil organization, and I'm fine with, like,
Yeah,
6 years later, it's Spectre now or whatever. But
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't that Quantum turned into Spectre. It was that Quantum was just a subsidiary of the Spectre organization.
right.
And like that actually didn't bother me. I knew you would be happy about it because you were bothered that Skyfall just kind of ignored all of that. And Spectre, I guess Spectre easily could have existed without doing all of that. It was a very loose tie-in to the previous movies. The most we get in with the tie-in is some different characters' images pop up either on a computer screen briefly or at the very end when James would walk through the old MI6 building and the different characters would pop up. And it was very...
I gotta say, I love the idea that Spectre, the head of Spectre, has a designated person who's like, his job is to go to the print shop.
Can you make like a little haunted house for...
His job is to go to the print shop and get photocopies of James Bond's head.
And spray paint. Can you graffiti James Bond with like a really crappy arrow to the left and then another arrow to the right?
Yeah, here are some photos. Go get these printed out. I want you to paste them all over these like gun boards, the target boards, and that's your job.
Well, even then you notice that they didn't even show what's his name? The villain from Quantum. It never showed his face.
Green. Yeah,
Green.
They mentioned him and they showed him a couple of times. He's like in some of the screens, but like, yeah, they really tried to over.
Yeah, they
tried to ignore Quantum of Solace, which I was irritated with more than anything.
Yeah, and I didn't mind that it became like, oh, all those movies that you just watched, they are all connected. We're just gonna say they're connected, and that's just how it's gonna be. If anything, I think it diminishes Skyfall, but because Skyfall is in my opinion just a great standalone movie. But now I don't know, like Spectre does tie into it, but at the same time it really doesn't. It doesn't ruin it at all. It's just kind of is. It seems a little haphazard. It seems a little bit tacked on.
It would be like if in Thunderball they said, "Oh, hey, by the way, Goldfinger actually worked for Spectre."
Yeah, exactly. It seems a little bit tacked on. I understand. It does give. It was like the character building in this film just seemed like it came in sudden bursts and very short-lived. It was abbreviated character building that seemed a little bit forced for James Bond, as opposed to an overarching, bigger story, such like in Skyfall. But I didn't hate it, but I also it was slightly annoying, but I didn't really hate it. I didn't mind it. If anything, it gave Quantum of Solace a little bit more perspective. And it's like, okay, they're tying it back in, and it was a great way for Daniel Craig to go off into the sunset if this is indeed his last movie.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, I think here are my only two problems. Overall I really enjoyed the aspect of like tying everything together, and I think that they seemingly, even going into Casino Royale, had a plan in place to create an organization, because that's sort of that's already happening in Casino Royale. We already know Le Chiffre is working for some organization. That's something we know. And so going into Casino Royale, we know that's there, that's being set up. They continue that in Quantum of Solace. They explain it even further. People have differing opinions on the execution of that. So be it. I think this movie, though, says, all right, it's even better than you thought. It's not just Quantum, some made up thing. It's like, this is Spectre, baby. This is the big deal. And so I liked it. I liked it overall, because I felt like with these movies, more so than previous movies, for sure. I mean, we have examples of characters carrying over. We had Felix carries over in movies, or we have Joe Don Baker's character carries over in
Yes.
a couple of Brosnans, or Robbie Coltrane's character carries over, or we have certain subplots like Bond's wife getting brought up again, or like that happens, but in the previous 19, 20 movies, that isn't a big deal. But here in this subset of movies, I like it. I love that we've done it.
Yeah. Well, I like it because it's within the setting and of the world that Spectre exists. And I say that because I think Spectre was a natural progression to Daniel Craig's Bond, where in Casino Royale, he was becoming 007. That's what Casino Royale was. That was its overarching story.
Right.
And in Quantum of Solace, it was continuing that, but also him learning how to let go of a lost love. Learning to let go of that. And in Skyfall, it was his identity crisis and where does an agent fit in this world and within this organization. So he's finally figuring out like how to be an agent. And in Spectre, we finally, for the first time, I feel like we get to see him as James Bond. It took 4 movies, but he's finally living as James Bond, and that Sam Mendes and the screenwriters, they went full bore with that and tried to make it just I hate to say formulaic, but they use James Bond formula to their advantage, or they try to play off that formula,
right?
And they try to use that. And so everything was heightened. So it was a spectacle film.
Oh,
I think
spectacle film.
The spectacle film. I think I counted that Spectre has about 6 big action set pieces versus
at least,
Skyfall has 3.
Uh-huh.
I think I counted 3 in Skyfall and 6 in Spectre. And it's like everything. You're right. Everything is heightened. Everything has to be made bigger and better. And we've talked about this in previous Bond films, how each movie is to not only increase budget, but it has to try to make it a better villain or a better story or anything. And Spectre, maybe to a fault at times, is like the biggest James Bond movie that I can think of.
In a lot of ways, I would think that going back to something like You Only Live Twice and the big volcano sequence, or Moonraker and he's in space. I mean, the absurdity of some of those set pieces, maybe it's not as big as that, but it's it certainly is like you're saying, 6 gigantic action pieces big.
Yeah, I thought the line between absurdity and realism was straddled quite nicely in this film, where it never tipped too far in one direction, because there are a lot of absurd moments in this movie, but it's just, that's, if they were going to do it, I felt like this was a really good attempt, a good way to try to do it, because it easily could have been full on Die Another Day, where they just go way too far.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. This was, in a sense, Die Another Day done right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if Pierce Brosnan would have loved to have like a Spectre type story.
Yeah,
for this.
Right, and this would have, like you say, I like Daniel Craig, and I hope if he wants to do another one, I would welcome it, and I would love to see a 5th movie. If he doesn't want to do another one, then I don't want him to do another one. That's where I'm at. Like, I don't want a Connery situation where he's coming back, and I think, oh, it's clear he doesn't want to do it, and here's his You Only Live Twice, or here's his Diamonds Are Forever, and I hate this movie.
And I know he's had bad publicity, or he's been giving bad press publicity with this film, but I think he's kind of turned that around, and he said, he's explained that and put it in context, and he said he had a lot of fun in this film. But I will say that I think his performance of all his films was probably weakest in this film. But
I don't know if I agree with that.
Mostly because I guess there just wasn't a lot for Daniel Craig to play with in terms of substance,
I think,
or a lot of character building. There was just so much more action that there were less opportunities for him to shine as an actor.
I guess, but I think it goes back to what you were saying. Like, here he is, he's finally Bond, and I think he does a great job at finally being Bond. Where that's maybe where where he was having more opportunity to act in the previous 3 films because he wasn't Bond yet.
Yeah, exactly. There was I mean, yeah. There's more there, but now that he's Bond,
But that said, there's still like these nice little pieces. Like when he goes, he goes into the they go into the hotel in was it Morocco or
Tunisia.
Tunisia, yeah, and he breaks through the wall, and there's all those VHS tapes, and there's the Vesper interrogation, and he picks it up, and there's just that slight hesitation, and I'm thinking, and I know you're thinking,
I was thinking that moment.
Put that down. You don't even care. You don't even care.
I'm so glad you brought out that moment, because at that moment I was thinking that's what Quantum of Solace should have been about. That's what I wished he had done in Quantum of Solace. Like he had just been reminded of her and just gone. I so wish that had been in Quantum of Solace. But you're right. There are plenty of nuggets here that are really good, and I feel like both Sam Mendes' directing and the script and Daniel Craig's performance doesn't really come into play until we get into Rome. And we get into Rome, and he goes into the Spectre meeting, and then he meets the assassin's wife, and so on and so forth. I feel like his performance started to take shape, but now that he's Bond, I mean, we've said this in previous movies. There's just in most of Bond films, Bond doesn't have a whole lot of substance. It's usually about it's only as good as its villain or as good as the Bond girls, and I feel like, Daniel Craig is still a great actor, but compared to the other films, because the other films are completely different than Spectre, we just didn't get to see him as much, I guess. But I thought that was pretty natural, though.
There's a lot of so let's talk about the villain real quick. And so Christoph Waltz is the main villain here. We don't really get much out of him for quite some time in the movie. He shows up in the room of the assassins, the Legion of Doom, if you will. I thought that scene was great. I thought he comes in and there's these long pauses and the light again. Every shot in this movie is beautiful. I don't feel it was quite to the same level as Skyfall, and I think that has to do with the director of photography being different.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, Hoyt Van Houten. He's a they shot this on film versus Skyfall is on digital, and I love the idea of shooting this on film. But so Hoyt's films that he's done just in the past 5 years or so, like Let the Right One In or Interstellar or Her, or like Drop Dead Gorgeous. But for some reason, Spectre, and it might have been the theater I was sitting in, because I was kind of bothered by some of the lack of focus on some things, but it seemed like there was a lot more CG shots looked CG that I know weren't CG or that needed to be CG. But there were, you're right, there were nuggets in this movie that were just jaw-dropping gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, and I think the lighting,
the Spectre scene where we're introduced to Oberhauser, or Blofeld as he turns out to be, was maybe my favorite scene in the movie. Just the pacing of it and the way his character is introduced, menacing.
Well, and the way that everyone's almost unlit, like everything's lit about them except like
how are you reading your paper in front of you? How are you reading that?
He comes in and there's just shadow cast on his face, and he sits down and just the little touches of him like having somebody else bring the microphone closer to him, and you're just waiting for something, and everyone just stops, and you can tell everyone's scared, and the tension in the room mounts.
The moment he says James, like, man,
and you knew it was coming. Like I knew this was going to happen. I knew he would identify James in the room. That's gotta happen. And even then, it was still like chilling. And
in the moment James like backs up into the shadows and then runs out, it was chilling. Yeah, it's absolutely chilling. And I don't know how you felt about Blofeld's character as a whole in this film. Or Christoph Waltz's performance in this film, but we got a lot of backstory in this, and even more backstory in the Bond's character and how he grew up, and the family that took him in, and Blofeld was adopted brother, essentially, of him. And I don't know how I feel about that. And I was fine with it. I just felt like it was underdeveloped. Like there was any scene they were in together, there was this big elephant in the room, like that they just weren't
Yeah.
talking about. Like, oh, hey, dude, what's up? Why did you why did you kill my adopted dad or whatever? Like there's this big elephant in the room that was never discussed, and maybe they're saving it for the next movie or something like that. But I felt like there was a big missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I think that they were probably scared to give too much detail. Like we talked about that with Skyfall of like we, and again in this time, like there were questions of like how old were you when your parents died, and they wouldn't give that answer yet again. And there's little details that they're just not giving that answer. And so I think there was this, like they were trying to straddle a line of like in 22 previous movies before Skyfall, we had not given you any history on this character other than you knew he had been in the Navy, and that's really all you knew.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there. Even if it was just like a moment where, when Bond goes into his hotel room, Blofeld's hotel room, he gives him, and he has the picture of the three of them on his mantle. Even if there was just like a few second pause of James looking at that photo, just looking at it reflectingly, just like that moment where he's thinking about his past and he's thinking about, how Blofeld has pretty much, I guess, how he's haunted him all these years. I don't know. That's my thoughts. And I felt like the way they designed Blofeld with the costume, with his eventual eye makeup, was really good.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't know. Going back to that point about the history, I think that if this had been the pre-Casino Royale James Bond, it would have been different than who he is now. I think in some ways he's gotten to the point where like he doesn't care. He's like, oh, like this isn't who I'm not that person anymore because of what he's gone through. He's become a 00. And so the history, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree that there is an elephant, that there's more to be developed. But because he's James Bond, he doesn't deal with it in the same way that anyone else would. He's just trying to save the world. He's just trying to like get out of there alive, and like there's no emotional pent up frustration for him anymore.
And you mentioned that he's kind of over that, and he's over worrying about things like that. And I that leads me to what I thought was the most engaging part of this movie, and that was Madeline Swan, her character, and how she affected James, where she was somebody who was entrenched in this world, and she was resistant to Bond, and she was a strong, intelligent character, who had this emotional tie-in to his past, and to her own past, into Blofeld's past. But she, I guess she convinced Jane, like, she didn't want to have anything to do with this, and do with that life, and to do with espionage, and to James going on and doing that, and that's why she left him at the end, and well, but not the very end. But she said that she couldn't have anything to do with him if he was going to continue with that. Like right. I feel like that was a very strong moment, because in typical old-fashioned Bond world, there's no way the girl's going to leave James for fear, But she was smart enough to realize that James isn't going to change, and that I'm not going to change him, so I have to leave, and that Bond, by being around her, slowly realized with Blofeld and with Hinks that he's damaged so many people in the past, whether it was the Chief and M and Vesper Lind and all these people, that he looked at her and he didn't want to ruin her as either. So in a sense, he kind of pulled the gun. He put the gun back in his holster at the end and walked away with her. I don't know. I don't know if there was quite enough there for him to put the gun back in his holster, and I think that's what it was kind of confusing. at the
I
end.
got it because he did the same thing she did.
Yeah,
She in the train took the clip out and then pulled the bullet out of the chamber. So he replicated that exact thing that she had done.
yeah, yeah.
And so I think that was part of that process where he did that and then he walked off with her. It's surprising because you think of like all the different women he's encountered over the years, and certain ones stand out. You know, like obviously like Tracy Bond and Vesper are two that come to mind as like, here are a couple that obviously impacted Bond to a point where he's making a life change. He's getting married, or in Casino Royale, he is going to go off with Vesper and resign. And here it's happening again. And I liked Madeline Swan, but I didn't feel like she herself was of the caliber of a Diana Rigg or of a...
Well, they didn't seem like they were in love.
No. But that said, the relationship that they had seemed very natural. Like, because the movie was the length it was, I felt like the relationship did grow to where it was, but it didn't feel like it was at that level. It didn't seem like it was high enough. But at the same time, like, you know, this is his chance to walk away. You know, there is no 007 or 00 group, and he can go off and
It is. I mean, it is a little frustrating because, like I said before, that I feel like this is the first movie where he's got the chance. Like, we've built up to the point where he can be James Bond, and that through the course of the movie, he was then broken down again, where he doesn't want to be James Bond. So, like, we're back to square one, and it seems like, well, this movie, like, once again, he has to go rogue, and that MI6 can't have any contact with them, just like in Skyfall and a number of other James Bond films.
I think, though, that helps. I think we have to do that more and more because of the modern day of communication and technology.
It's tough. It's tough to come up with a villain like that. I mean, it's tough. With technology. I mean, you're right, with technology like that. And okay, and the introduction of C. What do you think about the whole C situation?
Well, are you familiar with the show Sherlock on the BBC?
I am familiar with it. I have not had a chance to watch C.
Okay, he's the actor plays a character on that. So I already had this like, well, I'd forgotten who he was initially, and then it's like the second scene he shows up, and I'm like, oh, that's that guy, you know. And so I had this feeling about him anyway, just. Like, it was not fair because he plays a villain in Sherlock, and I'm like, oh, it's just like that. But
it wasn't until he started showing his teeth more in Spectre that he started to seem more menacing. I do like that James just immediately, I'm going to call you C. You're C. That was pretty good. But I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I think most people probably could see that a mile away, that he was going to turn out to be a bad guy. But it did give a chance for M to shine. And I like...
Oh, for sure.
I did like seeing M get his due screen time, considering that we had set up Mallory so well in Skyfall that I felt like he deserved a story of his own. And I was happy to see that.
Right. And it's great to see Q and Moneypenny. Moneypenny didn't do... I feel like she didn't do as much as I would have maybe expected that she was going to, especially the way she was sort of set up earlier in the film. But her and Tanner get some screen time. So the four of them have this little, like, you know, James Bond Warriors group going on. They're sort of doing their own thing with, and
I like they're the only people in MI6 that trust each other. Like, everybody else in MI6, they can just let go, but those are the only people that they can trust.
There's that, and then, like, kind of going back to the earlier conversation about how all the films are connected. You know, we talked about this some in the Skyfall episode. Is there's all these adventures that have to be happening between the movies, certainly between Quantum and Skyfall, and between Skyfall and Spectre. And even if there's just one giant adventure he goes on a year, there's at least, you know, I would say at least 4, 5, 6 other missions he would have gone on of major importance. And, you know, we get to this, and it's like, the only 3 that really matter are the ones we've seen
Yeah.
movies about.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder. Okay, if he did go on other missions, were his other missions just James Bond Junior level missions?
Right.
Because those are still really big.
Right. Blofeld had no desire to get involved with those, but just
Yeah. We designated James Bond to parking enforcement for this year.
right.
But I was gonna talk about that and whether or not you thought that Spectre happens immediately after Skyfall because of M's Judi Dench's tape to him that
I
she
wondered about
leaves
that too.
because she leaves the tape for him and we don't know exactly when he got the tape or how he got the tape, but he got the tape and it was supposedly her last wish for James to see.
And would it have taken
And you
3
can only
years
imagine-
to get the Skyfall remnants? Like, really, would it have been 3 years that he would have gotten? Because Moneypenny brings that box of like the burnt
Yeah.
papers and stuff, and like 3 years later.
What did they say it was 3 years?
Well, no, I mean, it was 12 when Skyfall
yeah.
came out. Like, would it have been real time for us versus him, or was it just immediately?
Yeah, no, it definitely. I got the impression that Spectre happens immediately after Skyfall,
or very
That they-
shortly after, like,
or very
a couple
shortly.
months
no
later,
more,
or something.
no more than a few weeks or a month, or something like that. But yeah, you're right because if he got the tape and he immediately went to Mexico, like why would he wait to go to Mexico or to find this man? By the way, that Mexico first oneer shot.
Oh,
Holy cow! Like that was a lot of fun.
I kept looking for the cheats, and there was only one time where I thought there might be a cheat, but I'm not even convinced there.
I think I noticed one cheat when he first went inside, into the building, and maybe another cheat when they pan from the girl in the bed,
that's
over
where
to
I-
him being undressed.
Yeah, that's why I wondered.
But still, I mean, I know they're all the extras weren't. I think they had like 1,500 extras or something. And of course, they enhanced them digitally, but just the pure spectacle of that day really set the stage for the tone of the movie like perfectly. I thought it was pretty cool up until like the helicopter nonsense that just seemed to go on for like 10 minutes. I'm like, just push the guy out already. It just kept
Well, it was
going
like-
on and on.
It was like,
and I
push
don't-
the guy out, and then he has to do it all over again with a different guy.
Yeah, and then a different guy, and then like they're doing the flips, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. And it seemed really fast when he, like they're fighting and they're doing flips, and somehow he was able to look down at this guy's ring and take notice of his ring and pull off his ring and put it on his finger. I'm like, wait, what just happened? How is he paying attention to this ring? It seemed to just come out of nowhere.
He's James
I don't know.
Bond, man. He can do it.
Yeah, he is James Bond. Well, up until the helicopter, it had me for sure.
I don't know. I still, that's the thing is there, like you mentioned, there's a lot of that straddling the line between absurd and real, and I think that's what James Bond's all about. Like even though we're talking about, the helicopter scene maybe went on too long or whatever, that's James Bond. It should go on a little bit too long. That's what it is supposed to be. Going back to Goldeneye and him jumping off of a cliff with the motorcycle.
I felt like it was already ridiculous though. But you're right. The motorcycle scene was like a 5-minute free fall.
or like
just kept going and going.
Jumping out of a plane and stealing a parachute off a guy and
Yeah.
ski chases and jumping on, skiing
guess-
off a cliff and he's got the Union Jack parachute.
Maybe
That
it
stuff.
wasn't-
It's all over the top.
Maybe it wasn't so much that it was so too long. Maybe that it was just too repetitive. Like, okay, you got that guy out. You got that guy
it
out.
may
Now
have
he's got to
been-
get this guy out.
Maybe been a little bit more, but
Maybe.
one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is when he's at the health institute and the security guys start attacking him and he punches the one guy and then he punches the second guy and the first guy comes back and he's like, "Stay down." And the guy's like, "Yeah, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight you."
No, that was great. That felt like an improv scene. They're just like yelling at this guy. No, that was hilarious. That was really good.
Dodgeball.
Dodgeball. Let's do it.
I believe it is your
It's-
turn to go first.
It is my month. My episode to go first.
So this is a
And
different kind of situation for us. I've
tough.
watched all of these actual official James Bond movies via Blu-ray. And all of these movies, with the exception of that the James Bond Jr. or the Casino Royale, the 1950 version that I watched. I'd seen all these movies before. I was just watching them again. This. I've only seen this movie one time. This is a fresh take. I'm having to sit here, watch it, take it in, and watch it
tough.
for the show.
It's like we needed to see it twice just to watch it for dodgeball players.
Right.
Because honestly, when I've watched movies for this podcast, I'm mostly just watching it for potential dodgeball players.
Oh yeah.
So it's a struggle for me to think back in this film and think of any minor characters that I could use, or anybody like that. Obviously, like Hinks comes to mind because he's this just bulldozer of a guy, and my goodness, that train fight scene was probably my favorite action scene in the movie.
But he's so big, he's easy to hit, right?
He's a
wall.
He's a wall. He's strong, but like, is dodgeball a sport for him? Probably not. Like, I can't see him dodging very many balls.
No, and he's throwing punches at Bond, and Bond is dodging them. Bond is doing great. So Daniel Craig Bond on my team, great dodger.
Yeah, great dodger. You're right, great dodger. And there's a couple other characters, and it's tough. I felt like I had a really good opportunity here, getting Spectre, being able to go first, but I have to pass. I can't draft anybody from this movie.
Okay.
And I hate to say that, but I just can't do it.
Okay. I had a couple of ideas. And this is going to be kind of an unprecedented thing. But I'm interested in your thoughts on this.
Well, I need to get Lisa Prentice involved.
I don't think so. I think this isn't a dodgeball rules thing. This is how does it work for the movies?
Okay.
If you think back, while you heard Sam Smith singing the opening song, which is it's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
Oh, with my octopus.
No, not your octopus. This is the Spectre octopus.
I know, but I watched the whole intro credits, and I couldn't help but think, like, oh man, I wish that was my octopus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I wonder if that could be my octopus.
Except for it's not really in the movie.
Well, we ever said that the titles don't count? We've never ruled one way or the other on titles. If I can't have the octopus,
it's not a character. It's not like a character in the actual plot of the film.
The other character that I was really thinking about, also from the opening credits, was there are these like girls that turn to smoke, and I was like, man, that'd be great for dodgeball. That'd be great for dodgeball team.
Well, they would get out so fast. They would just go up and smoke.
Like, you could never hit them. They would just turn to smoke.
But would they come back?
Yeah.
Because once they're gone, they're gone.
No, they come back. They're like.
Did you see them come back?
I think they came back. Yeah. I was like, oh, that'd be great for dodgeball.
We need to see this movie again. Just for that. I don't know. I would have a hard time considering those as actual characters in the plot of the movie, as opposed to the helicopter or the shark or even my octopus, because it's all just, I mean, it's all metaphors for things, right? They're all symbols, not necessarily characters. I don't know. I have a hard time.
Okay, all right. You know what? Fine. Then I'm also not going to pick anybody, because as I got to the end, I thought, I've got a great team. The only person I was only gravitating toward those two characters, or if we had seen the character who went through the old MI6 headquarters with the photocopy paper and the
setup for the dodgeball
if we had seen that character, I would really have wanted that person on my team. Just because their attention to detail, like, I would want them like as my assistant coach, essentially.
Well, we essentially need an event coordinator for our events, right?
Yeah.
He or she would have been the perfect event coordinator. Okay. If you had drafted either the octopus or the up in smoke ladies, who would you have gotten rid of? Would you have even been willing to get rid of somebody?
Well, I have a great team as it is. It would have been challenging. I probably would have looked at dropping Solitaire.
Solitaire, but she's the one weakness to my one Bond.
Yeah, and she's my only female character at this point.
How dare you? Yeah, I think that's a good choice. So this is a very important moment in our podcast because I believe until the next Bond movie comes out, however many years that is from now, this is our dodgeball teams.
That's true. That's true.
These are our final dodgeball teams that we are stuck with.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
Unless we can think of
right.
other reasons to bring in other movies, but as of now, of all the movies that we've seen, we're stuck with these. So this is the best of the best.
This is, right now, I would say, from the standpoint of Bond character dodgeball, this is it. Now, that's not to say we might not form other teams in the future. We might not do something else. I'm not saying that we would never do the dodgeball segment again, but as far as these teams are concerned, they're locked in until Bond 25.
Yeah, and we still have our practice squads, our reject teams.
Right.
But yeah, this is the best of the best. If you're interested in looking at our dodgeball teams, you can go on to our website podjamespod.tumblr.com. Look at our dodgeball teams. And I feel like we've had many good challenges between our two teams. We both have our strengths and our weaknesses. Maybe yours more weaknesses than strengths, but it's been a good run with the whole draft process.
Yeah,
it's been not 2 years because what episode did we start?
It was 005-ish or something like that. We started it
05-ish. So almost a year and a half of drafting dodgeball members, and I'm kind of sorry to. I won't have another chance until the next Bond movie.
That's right.
Be.
So
and there may be a new Bond. Who knows?
Bond producers, I hope you hope you listen to us and get on a new movie soon.
And if you well, I guess I'm not even promoting Alabama Dog anymore. I guess cast whoever you want. Whoever you want. Daniel Craig, if you want to come back, do it.
I mean, yeah, whatever. Whatever you think's good.
At this point, I feel like Bond fans should have all the confidence in the execs and the producers that I guess there's no reason to distrust the process for the next movie.
Here's how I look at it: is maybe you don't like the next movie. Maybe you don't like this one, and I know
it's bound to happen sooner or later.
I know that I've seen people who have already. I've been reading people complain they didn't like this movie.
It's very
and
mixed.
That's fine.
It's very mixed.
When you get to 24 movies, there's gonna be some you like, and there's gonna be some you don't like. There's gonna be some that you would rate in maybe, let's say there's 3 different tiers. Some you might think like these are the worst of the worst. They're the bottom of the tiers.
Scum bucket.
There's gonna be some you're like that's okay. That's all right. I didn't love it. I don't really maybe even like it that much, but it's okay. And there's gonna be some that you're gonna really like, and maybe even love. And I wonder, Aaron, where would you place Spectre in, say, a 3-tier system like that?
In our 3-tier system. Spectre is a good mixed bag for me. There are a lot of things I like about it, and there are a lot of concerns, I think this is, and in the previous episode, I had said that I'm a big fan of Sam Mendes' work. He may be my favorite filmmaker ever. I think Spectre is his worst movie he's ever done. That being said, I think it's a really good movie. And that says a lot about him and what he can bring to the table. And obviously there's a lot more elements to making a movie than just the director. But I think it's a very much an above average Bond film when you compare it to all the other Bond movies. I'm going to put it in my top. It's in my top.
Okay, that's a lot. You know what? That's a lot of preface, and I feel like the same amount of preface that I gave on Skyfall, you've given on Spectre, and I will say without question, this is in my top tier. I really love this movie. You're gonna probably flip out and hate me forever. I think I liked it better than Skyfall.
Oh,
I liked it better than Skyfall because all those things that I had problems with on Skyfall, with the, like the Silva plot and this and that, like because Skyfall was trying to be so real, and all these things like it felt like weren't real, like it just distracted me. It just really distracted me, and you could tell that was the case.
I knew you.
And on this one,
I was watching this movie. I knew it was right up your alley. I knew you were going to love
absolutely
this
up my
movie.
alley. This is exactly what I want out of a Bond movie. This is it.
Of course,
This is it. They made this movie for me.
It's plot, action, action.
Yeah.
And
yeah. This is my kind of movie.
This movie is made for you. Top. Okay.
Is it better than Casino Royale? No. Better than the other two that Craig's done?
The reasons that you like it better than Skyfall are the reasons I don't like it better than Skyfall. Like everything that you just said. Like I feel like the plot just gets too muddled and it just becomes so dependent on it.
Oh.
Well, and the downfall, the downfall of any Bond movie is that, previous to Daniel Craig's movies, is that there is a formula to it, and anytime a movie is formulaic, it doesn't seem original. And this movie purposely is trying to be formulaic, and I appreciate that, and I like it, but I'm also torn because at the same time, it's not too terribly original, and I can't think of it as like a great movie compared to like all genres of movies, but I do think it's a very good James Bond movie, and for that reason I'm keeping my top. So I agree with you, Carl. I just don't love it as much as you do.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to.
Oh, it sounds like I have to.
No, you don't have to. And I think we do agree on this one last thing. We agree that it's very disappointing, very frustrating, very disheartening, and I feel bad, especially if this is his last movie, that Daniel Craig did not ever have a boat makeout scene to end his movie. Sorry, Daniel, if it didn't happen this time. I hope maybe you'll come back for Bond 25 so that you will have one.
Did he have any?
He had boat making out in Casino Royale, but it didn't end with a boat makeout.
Well, that doesn't count.
I know.
Why didn't bring it up?
I'm not. You asked if he had boat. I'm simply clarifying for those listening. Yes, we realized there was boat makeout. It wasn't at the end of the movie. It doesn't count.
They just miss out on an opportunity. They literally went from the boat. James Bond, the shooting of the helicopter was just like that. They may have been the ultimate cheeseball moment of the movie. He should have walked off. Just one shot. He should have walked out Madeline Swan should have stayed in the boat.
No, she should have been there. He should have walked off with her. They got in the boat, drove off, and make out.
Yeah, you're right. They should have gone on the boat and then go to the car, or not even deal with the car.
No, yeah, no car, boat. Anyways,
all right. So both tops. I like that we end with a movie where we both put it in our top.
Yeah, I was a little concerned going into this. I was worried that maybe we would disagree, but I'm glad that we weren't way off.
Oh, I'm always nervous going into movies like this because we, as Bond experts, we have expectations.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wrote a letter to the director, but it was good. It's good.
Well, we're not done with this show yet. There are no more Bond movies to cover, but we do have plans to come back next month with a new episode and come back and find out what we do. And until then, we're going to say goodbye to you and hope you enjoy Spectre as you're getting, as it's coming out in theaters now as we record this, and hope you get a chance to see it in the theaters and enjoy it. And we look forward to hearing your thoughts, and you can tell us how right we were about everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What he said.
Okay. Well, thanks,
All right.
Aaron, and we'll talk
Thanks,
to you next
Carl.
month.
Thanks for talking. I'll talk to you next month. Bye.